So today's episode will be a little bit different with this upcoming summit that we have coming up, Aligned 17. I decided to do a little episode on 4 lessons that I've learned in planning 2 summits in the last 3 or 4 months. So with Content Summit 17 being in February, and then planning Aligned 17 coming up this in just next week, next Monday. I've learned a ton about planning virtual summits. I've had a lot of people reach out asking kind of what I did to put these together, and so there are so many details that went into planning these events. So I really just wanted to take this episode to talk about the biggest lessons that I've learned in planning these 2. So the first lesson that I learned, particularly because Aligned, I had event partners. So I partnered with Brandon Redlinger from Engagio. I partnered with Jeremy Boudinot from Ambition, and with Morgan Campbell from On24. And with Content Summit, I didn't have any event partners. I went at it really on my own, and just our internal team. And the difference that it has made in planning an event with event partners and doing it on your own has been enormous. So if you are listening to this, you're thinking through and you're thinking about planning a summit yourself. Really think through who could be some strategic partners that you can partner with, maybe aligned brands that don't sell the same thing that you do, but something similar to a similar audience. And how can you partner with them to share the workload? Because putting these events together is an enormous amount of effort, between doing the actual interviews and putting together all the graphics for each speaker and getting all of the the marketing automation set up and all the promotion that happens. Like, when you have partners, it is just a game changer. So that's the first lesson that I've learned. The second one that I've learned is that the more speakers you have, the better. So both of these events, we've had over 50 speakers. But the trick here is you can't focus on quantity of speakers unless you also have a hyper focus on quality of content. So because I do this daily podcast, I'm very accustomed to kind of getting right to the point, getting very granular on a specific topic. And because of that, I can do, with Content Summit, I did all, 55 interviews for that summit, and I followed the same framework that I use for this podcast. We targeted a very, narrow topic under the umbrella of the theme of the conference, and we went deep on that. We went, 12 to 20 minutes. It was very structured. We had, 3 to 5 talking points for each session, and the content was streamlined, it was clean, and there was value in every single session. And so we followed that same model with Aligned, except now, because I have event partners, I only had to do a fraction of the interviews. I think I only ended up doing like 12 or 15 interviews as opposed to 55. So, but the quality of the content for Aligned is just as exceptional. I just didn't have to do it all. So we focused on exceptional content, but the more speakers you have, the better, because those speakers then become the promoters of your event. And so the more people you have promoting your event on LinkedIn, Twitter, their email lists, the better. The more leads you're going to generate, the more emails you're going to collect. So that's lesson number 2. Number 3, kind of on the heels of having a lot of speakers, you need to make sure that you equip your speakers with the resources they need to adequately promote your event. And so I work with a design team called Kappa99, KAPA99.com, and I basically get unlimited graphic design for very, very affordable rate every month. I think their pricing is like $400 a month now. There are services like Design Pickle, and there are lots of services popping up like this. I use Kappa99 and have had a really good experience with them. And so I created custom graphics for each one of our speakers that has their headshot and the details of the event. I also did graphics where there were 7 different speakers on the graphic. And what that allows me to do is publish to LinkedIn and tag multiple speakers. And when you tag multiple people on LinkedIn, you get a lot more traction getting into or organically getting into people's feeds on LinkedIn. And so and then I did another graphic that had all 50 plus speakers, many headshots as like the background of the photo. And so created a Google Drive, created subfolders in that drive that had each speaker's name, and then in each speaker's folder I put in their graphic with just their headshot, the graphic that has them alongside 6 of the other speakers, and then the large group photo. So it's an enormous amount of work, but you use a service like Kappa or your internal design team to get that done. And now your speakers are incentivized to share because you've made them look like a rock star. And so one thing that I did not do with Content Summit, but because partnering with event partners, Brandon from Engagio was like, hey, let's put together a promo kit. So Brandon put together a promo kit. He had email copy, and so we've sent now to all of our speakers sample emails that they can send to their email list. I had a speaker from Content Summit say, hey James, had you sent me something to send to our list, I would have done it, but I just had these graphics, so I just posted on social. So with Aligned, we took that one level further, and we equipped our speakers with copy that they could send to their email lists. And I have a feeling that the conversion from someone sending an email is much higher than the conversion from someone posting on LinkedIn or Twitter. So that was incredible. We gave them sample tweets that they could tweet out, email copy, gave them links to all of the graphics and where those graphics are in Google Drive. That was all in that promo kit. And then I use a tool called Mailshake. You can go to mailshake.com. It's like $9 a month. And that's the tool that I used to send all of the correspondence that I needed to send to all of my speakers. So instead of sending 55 one-off emails with the link to the Google Drive, I used Mailshake. It still sends from my my Gmail server, my james@sweetfishmedia.com account, but it goes to each one of those speakers as if I sent it from my own account. So it's not like sending it from MailChimp or anything like that. But the beautiful part about Mailshake is it can automate your follow-ups. And so if someone doesn't reply, you can follow up, or you can set a drip campaign to say, hey, I want to send out the promotional assets to all of our speakers on this day, and then 3 days later I'm going to send out another email asking them to join the Facebook group, and then 2 days later I'm going to send out another email asking them to invite their team to sign up for the event. So you can get real strategic with how you sequence out those emails, but Mailshake is the tool that I've used for that. But all that to say, equip your speakers with the resources that they need to adequately promote your event. This last lesson that I'll talk about is inviting prospects to speak at your summit. So I think that it's easy to think about the thought leaders in your space and asking those thought leaders to be a guest and to feature them on the summit. But just like I do with B2B Growth Show, I get prospects to be a guest on our podcast. And in the same way, you need to be thinking about getting prospects to be a guest at your summit and to speak at your summit. We ended up closing, I think after Content Summit, we ended up closing 2 deals with people that I had on the podcast, and then to nurture that relationship, I asked them to speak at Content Summit, and shortly after Content Summit was over, we ended up closing deals with both of those brands. And so it can be, the ROI from your summit doesn't just have to come from the people that register for the event. It can actually come from the people that you ask to speak at the summit. So those are the 4 lessons that I've learned from doing 2 summits over the last few months. Hope it's valuable for you. If you have any questions at all, I'd love to jam on it with you. Shoot me an email, james@sweetfishmedia.com. Thanks a lot.